you realize that if you try to sell something to someone really, really hard, it doesn't work out very, very well.
Sure.
But if you educate them, and if you help them make the right decision, then all of a sudden, all magic, they start interacting with you more.
Well, today I have Johan Abadie, who is a chemist, but somehow ended up becoming a CMO at Process Maker. Johan, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to talk about that journey and where you come from and where you're at right now. But you're from France.
That's correct.
Originally Illinois is a French word.
That's right. Yes.
Is that why you ended up in Palatine, Illinois?
Totally random.
Okay, totally random. Okay.
Totally random. I wish I had a great story about it, but I don't.
There's not a good story there? Okay.
No.
Well, I thought maybe there was a French connection. So from chemist to CMO, I'm sure there was some steps in between. But how did that happen?
Many steps. So first, I was after school, after university, I went to business school and I wanted to learn English. So I decided to reach out to my professor, the professor I work with at the university, and told him that I wanted an internship, preferably in the US. He gave me 5 emails. I sent 5 emails. I received 1 answer. And they gave me an offer for an internship for a few months. Mm-hmm. It was in 1998.
Okay.
And 20-some years later, I'm still here, basically. That was the first step.
Yeah. It's funny how that stuff happens. The way I didn't quite have as big of a leap. I come from near Kansas City, Missouri, but I had some friends in Chicago who was like, hey, we need a roommate. Are you available? I was like, yeah. Like, next month? Sure. Now I'm here.
There you go.
Step 1.
That's right. Right.
So that happened, but tell me a little bit about sort of the career progression here.
Right. So I was in the chemical space for a few years. Okay. At first, I started work. So I worked for two startups in the research park in Evanston.
Okay. That's
so
where I live.
I mean, I could have landed in a worse place, really. Yeah. I got very lucky. Yeah. If it was in the middle of Nebraska, no offense to anyone here, but I probably wouldn't be here anymore.
There's a lot of drive time without anything in between.
Exactly, and I wouldn't have liked that very much. So I worked for these 2 companies. Really enjoyed what I was doing, but I started getting frustrated working for people in academia who I felt didn't have much business sense, and I didn't use my business degree very much. Wanted to do more of it, and a friend of mine, who was also my roommate at the time, got me to read his business plan, and I want in.
Yeah.
And he told me that they had no money, and I don't care.
It was a startup.
We'll figure it out. It was a startup as well, yes. We worked on the open source hardware solutions.
Cool.
And it was in the early 2003, 2004. And did that with them for a few years until 2008, where the market crashed, we ran out of cash, and I ended up joining another company I was trying to get a partnership with. When I told them that there would not be any partnership between us because my company would not be around for very much longer, they hired me. I moved to Barcelona. It was a software company.
Okay.
I moved to Barcelona. Didn't work out very, very well.
Better than Nebraska, though.
Yeah, it was super nice. I mean, the place was really awesome. Working conditions were not that great.
Gotcha.
We're not on the same page. They asked me to do things that were not quite legal.
Ooh, yeah. That's always tricky.
Yeah. So I fought really hard.
Yeah.
It was a media center solution.
Okay.
And they wanted a partnership with Pirate Bay, and it was Pirate Bay that basically pirates all of the content there is to. Yeah. No, can't do.
I don't know if I can do that one. Yeah.
Exactly, can't do. So it didn't work out very, very well. And the day before a week before I left, my wife was pregnant with our 3rd boy at the time. We had twin boys. We moved across the pond with almost to be 1-year-old.
Oh my
twins.
Gosh! Holy cow! And I just had our daughter turn 1, so I know what 1's like.
Yeah.
But 2, that's crazy, especially moving that far.
you cannot imagine what you can do with elbows and knees.
Yeah, you got to put all the appendages to work.
I could feed 2 at one time.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Man,
it was awesome. It was tough.
I want to see a photo of that.
I will, but I'll show it to you. But my wife was pregnant. She was not happy being pregnant, having to move again. Oh, and she was, I want to be nearby my family.
Yeah.
And she's from Bolivia.
Okay.
And so we have a discussion with my future ex-colleague who is asking me, so what are you going to do? I think we're going to go to La Paz. And he's, Bolivia? Yeah. Most people don't know where it is, but he knew. I know the CEO of a company there. His name is Brian Real. He's with Process Maker.
Okay.
I think he would love to have someone like you on his team. I'm leaving in a week. Told him I'll reach out to him.
Yeah.
I reached out to him after settling down, and they offered me a job within 3 weeks of me being there.
Wow.
And I started working with them and had a blast.
For a data sort of science facts guy, you sure do have a lot of go with the flow in your life where things are just kind of working out in a kind of a cool way. I'm not saying it was easy.
It's true. Yeah, well, I think the stars are aligned. I mean, you have to take risk. I mean, if you want to make a mark anywhere else, you have to take risks. So at times it's, I mean, it never goes according to the plan, right? When I was 24, I got here with my good friend who ended up being my boss twice. I told him what my plan was, and he was, good luck with that plan. I didn't know what he meant. A few years later, I realized that it never goes according to the plan.
Yeah.
So do you want to be a sailboat or do you want to be a motorboat? I will be a sailboat.
Interesting.
I'll see where the wind pushes me.
But motorboats work too, right? Or they don't?
Until a certain point. If you are going against the wind, at some point your motor is going to break.
Yeah.
So
Demian, we got a sales analogy.
Been there.
Right?
Yeah.
Demian's a big sailing guy.
Yeah.
So anytime we talk about sailboats, I have to give him a shout out. But is that how you approach life too?
Oh yeah.
Sailboat? You're the sailboat.
As long as the sailboat does what I tell it to.
Yeah. For me, it has been a little more challenging. But I also think that if you're like everyone else, you're like everyone else.
Sure.
And I'm not as talented as many people, but where I differentiate myself is I know some things that others don't know, like chemistry. And I have a way of thinking that other people might not have, and I use that to my advantage whenever I can.
Yeah.
So, and I keep my story. So, Process Maker, I'm in Bolivia. We don't want to stay there, so we move back to the U.S. So we moved 3 times in 2.5 years.
Holy cow!
With
these
3 kids.
These aren't like down the street moves.
No.
These aren't like I'm going to go to the surbers and we'll just hang out there for 10 years. This is like major moves.
And my wife is still with me. It's amazing. I mean, she is
good. You guys are doing something right.
She deserves a statue, I think.
But well, we got a couple here. I don't know if they're relevant. You can take one home.
That sounds like a plan. I'll try to do that. And so I came back to the US. So I was in the software space with Process Maker, process automation. Loved it, but didn't want to live in Bolivia. Joined another company called Digital Innovations that invented Skip Doctor, the CD and DVD repair company.
Yeah, sure.
The CEO was my friend.
I've used it.
Yeah, CEO was my friend, and he hired me as to design new products.
Okay.
So I did product design, supply chain management, designed some products for Best Buy,
You're
Target,
all over the place.
all the stuff. Exactly, and I love it. I mean, it's fun. And we got acquired by another company. I was the person who was, because I had established all of the supply chain and I knew the products the best, I was kept around, but I was bored. Not that it was a bad company, but my job changed a lot and I didn't enjoy it. So I went to a company that did RFID solutions.
Yeah.
Took a big risk, didn't work out. Then I went with a company that did supply chain software management solutions. After a year and a half, didn't enjoy what I was doing. And I went to MediaFly.
Right.
With one of your guests, Isabel.
Isabel, shout out if you're watching.
Yes, Isabel,
thank you for the introduction.
And loved what I was doing, did demand gen, used my analytical skills to get us more pipeline That was the goal, get more pipeline.
So is that the first moment where you were starting to get into like demand generation and sales pipeline and
Yes,
and kind of getting
well, I did it with actually with another company before, but not at that scale.
Yeah.
I had done actually when I was with Digital Innovations, I did design new products, and my CEO told me at some point, you're going to be a VP of marketing, and it was my answer was expletive no. I don't do arts and crafts. That's not my thing.
Yeah.
And
arts and crafts.
Arts and crafts, yeah.
I
Marketing, very much. I'm the head of the arts and crafts team.
I love popsicle sticks and making things out of popsicle sticks and glue. So that'd be kind of fun.
I mean, eating them is cool. Doing it, I can't do it.
No, not
so
your thing.
I'm not. It's not my thing. It really is not. But what he was telling me is your analytical mind is probably going to be a good fit. And I think, a little bit of luck and foresight on his hand. This is where tech changed a lot.
Sure.
Marketing, and I dove in. I love tech. I love algorithms. I love data, and fast forward, and it's my thing.
So what is it about that combination, I guess, of the data and algorithms? I understand that, like, I can connect the dots between a chemist and then getting into that, but then like combine that with sales or new business. There's sort of this other side of like motivator of like winning or sort of bringing getting more clients, or kind of where do those two things connect?
But I think your outlook is always you want to always get better, right?
Yeah,
it's all about outcome. And so I did biz dev, I did sales training, I did sales as well. I managed sales team.
Yeah.
I managed pre-sales team. And what I realized at all time, and we were talking about it earlier, is we're no longer in a selling era. We're in a helping era. Right. You have to help people buy, or you have to help people, period. And when you help people, you build trust. Yeah. And when you build trust, they end up coming to you when they have a need. Right. And then you can get them to buy something from you.
Yeah.
So over the years, I realized that I hate being sold to, and I don't know.
I don't think anybody does these days, right?
Yeah.
If you do, you're sick in the head, and you need to get that looked at.
Exactly. Yeah. Do it right now.
Yeah.
But I realized that don't do to others you wouldn't want anyone to do to you. We got to stop with the hard sell. The ABC and ABS, always be selling, always be closing. It's nonsense. So I started pushing really hard for the always be helping.
Oh, I like
help
ABH.
People. Yeah, ABH.
I feel like we could, Fun Guy Media, we could just do like a meme video of that Alec Baldwin speech from Glenn Ross and just change the word.
You can do that.
Let's do that. ABH instead of ABC.
Let's do
right?
that.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. And you can totally take ownership of that. This is cool.
Great. You just got permission.
Whatever works. I think this is the way people should look at things.
Yeah.
So what I did is, and how do you take this, or how do you come to this, is you look at data.
Right.
What works. You realize that if you try to sell something to someone really, really hard, it doesn't work out very, very well.
Sure.
But if you educate them, and if you help them make the right decision, then all of a sudden, magic.
Yeah.
They start interacting with you more. So
yeah, and that's totally in line with all the conversations that we're having with clients and people that we're talking to. It's just, it's people want to become that helpful go-to guide, that go-to expert, because they come to you for the answers, and that is you have to get to know somebody, like somebody, and then trust them.
Correct.
And that's the process.
Correct.
And you think that all started with data entering the room?
To me, yeah. I would say data is the great equalizer. I told the team, and it's not from me, it's from Andy Crestodina.
Yeah.
Which you probably know.
And Andy is the person I was telling you about that we had on the podcast just a few episodes ago.
Yeah, he's fabulous. I saw one of his presentation with I think it was Chicago University booth, and it's just don't bring an opinion to a data fight.
Love that. Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter who you are. CEO from janitor is the data is the great equalizer. So when you look at the data and when you see what works, you do more of what works.
Right. Do less of what doesn't.
Exactly.
Yeah. Don't you think though that Data's gotten a little too big.
Yes, but I think there is misinterpretation around data as well. So we have a lot of data that is thrown at us, and most people don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, where do you start?
Where do you start? Hire a data scientist, and that's what I did actually at MediaFly. So I started scaling things up, and then people were asking me more, and I was analyzing data all the time, but they were coming from different systems and data wrangling, and I know some of this stuff, but I didn't have time to do all of it, and I hate coding with passion. I learned it, but Python is never going to be my best friend. As if I get someone who is going to feed me the data, the right type of data, then I will be able to tell the type of stories that I want to tell people, and we will be able to do it in a way where we will also simplify the data. We'll make the data insightful. The data will be triggering new things. It's actionable data that we want to give people, and that was the hardest. And another one, Isabel, she's going to laugh at this one if she reads this, but I remember presenting her one of my dashboard, and I had everything. I could filter anything. You would tell me from the US how many, the cost per click, and I had everything. And she looked at it and she was, there are a lot of pretty colors.
That's what I would have said.
Yeah, and she had no idea what it meant.
Yeah.
And I realized that my way of interpreting data, my way of looking at data didn't make it applicable for anyone else. So I had to find a way to present this data in a way that was actionable for others.
Right.
So I hired a data scientist. We built nicer dashboard, and we started going more. People started falling in love with it. I created data monsters in some ways. But actionable data is the big thing. You have to be able to interpret it and present it right.
Well, and I would imagine too, I mean, that's kind of where the left brain, right brain, a little bit of the arts and crafts comes into your role, right? Which is like, how do I take this, make it actionable? How do I tell stories around it? How do I communicate this in a way that people can make a decision, get excited about,
and
or
understand,
change direction,
or even understand, or can interpret. And I think the presentation part was the one where I had underestimated how, I mean, you have dashboard specialists, UX specialists, but I got this.
Yeah.
And then I did it a few times, and it's very humbling.
Yeah.
You get a few dashboards and people are,
they're like, I don't know what that is.
It works for you, but for me, I have no idea what this is. So I presented it, and now it helped me, move forward with, how do you scale what you're doing? How do you get people to understand what you're doing? Because when you present the data correctly, all of a sudden they are, oh, I see where you're going. I see why you're doing this and why you're doing that.
Right. It's hard to argue with. You're building that case.
Correct. And you get them to be more comfortable working with data. And that's one of the things I was telling, I've told all of the people I work with, aggregated data is crap. There is very little that you can do with it unless you're Procter & Gamble and the big brands, because their volumes are so high, they can use aggregated data. But when you are a company that makes $50 million a year, your data is not that aggregated.
Right.
It's not, and you have to be able to be more granular, and you have to pick up the trends within the data that you have, and that's where this is, maybe is my secret sauce is. I can see the channels where we are doing a little better. And what I do is I do it in increment. Because when you do a science experiment, if you change 3 things at once, good luck figuring out what worked out.
Right.
Is it ingredient A, B, or C? I don't know. So you change one thing, and you see if it goes up or if it goes down, and you iterate. So this incremental way of doing things. So
if it doesn't change, do you just keep it then?
If it doesn't change, it means that you probably pick the wrong parameter to change.
Right.
So it's something else that is moving the needle. So
my science experiment, or my science, what are those called when we do those in elementary school? Science fair.
Yeah.
Mine was just a volcano, where you
like
pour
most.
Everybody did the same thing.
Yeah.
Not very exciting.
Still
did you ever do one of those?
We didn't.
You didn't?
I did it in a lab creating stuff. Actually, my first science experiments were, we were in a lab. back in France, you're in a lab, you're mixing things, you're doing cool stuff. But I started doing science, real research. It was intimidating. I was 21, 22 in the lab, and I had to come up with a solution for a storage of nuclear waste.
Whoa, for real?
For real.
Not for fun, not for funsies.
For real. Well, I didn't deal with nuclear waste, but I dealt with elements that would basically simulate.
So did you just pour it down the drain and be like, this?
No, actually, I had to trap it in a matrix that would keep it for as long as possible.
Wow.
So this is where I learned that, you make a lot of assumptions and you are wrong very often.
So you can't be wrong in certain cases. There's where the data really matters.
That's true.
It comes down to some big problems happen if you don't use the data.
It's true. Well, the advantage of the lab, you can be wrong.
Right.
But then you got to right your wrongs.
In the world. Yeah,
Yes.
sure. That's the whole point.
Correct.
Find what's wrong. Find what's right. So, okay, so you're doing this, you're at Process Maker, but you're leading the sort of marketing, demand gen, that whole side of the business right now. And you're putting data to work to figure out what's working, what's not working.
Correct.
So what is Process Maker? Let's kind of dive into that just a little bit. Like, what are you guys doing for your customers, and sort of what's the value proposition there?
The way I would describe it now is we are the easiest platform to design and automate your enterprise processes.
And we're talking a lot about how AI is playing a role in making it the easiest platform. So kind of what's the big aha there? What's the thing that's sort of changing how you guys are operating?
So in 2023, when ChatGPT came about and we realized that it could interpret people's words very, very well, or just, wow. I mean, the challenge we always had is when you had to design a process, you had to learn how to design a process. You had to learn terminology, BPM, and business process management notation, annotation technology, and nomenclature. And it was a pain. Even for me, designing a process was not a couple of minutes. Exercises was a couple of hours. And we started playing with ChatGPT, large language models. And we realized that we could literally have our designer design the process based on you describing what you wanted. And
that's helpful. That sounds easy.
And it is. It is. My mom can design a process in French right now without learning anything about process design.
So then why do we need Process Maker?
To orchestrate all of these processes that have been designed now.
Put it all together.
Because it's designing the process and then it's automating the process and tying it to the database, and it's sending and receiving information from the different people who are involved in the process. So we do orchestration around this.
Got it. So there's a software platform, obviously, that's doing all of this.
Correct.
And then you guys are, of course, implementing that and helping people use it.
Totally. Yeah.
So is Fungi Media a possible client for that, or is this for bigger companies that really need this at a bigger scale?
Usually it's for bigger companies. I mean, you need to have some processes that are complex enough, that involve quite a lot of, either a lot of different steps, a lot of different decisions that have to be made, a lot of different scenarios that can be played out, and the different outcomes that you want to get to. If you want to talk about, so if you are doing a project where you have 2 or 3 people collaborating, probably overkill.
We could probably handle it.
Exactly, overkill. If movie production at a big scale,
you might need some, bring it all together, bring those processes together.
Exactly.
Cool, okay. Well, when we release our feature film.
We're gonna make a movie?
You heard it here first, folks. Then we know where to go to get the processes in place.
Totally, we'll back you up on it.
Okay, so if you weren't a CMO today, what would you be doing, you think?
One of the things that I really aspire to is, I have a son who is autistic. And I've been exposed, to him daily, helping him learn. And since he's born, he's 15 years old right now. Since he's born, I really feel like there is a better way to teach to these kids.
Yeah.
I would probably, now with AI, I think that we have the tools for tutors, one-on-one, based on the specificity of the individuals, based on how they learn and based on what they understand and don't understand.
That's fascinating. So like, would it be like that, your son sort of interacting with an AI platform, or, and
exactly
communicating in some way, a tutor? Yeah.
A tutor, someone who would, you have seen the Tony Stark and Jarvis scenes. I felt the same way when I interacted with AI, with Process Maker. Not so much ChatGPT, because it was ideation, but it was, wow, I can do stuff I had no idea I could do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to ask this question. You're in the world of jargon and software development and tech. And what is one word or phrase that we should stop using in the workplace that comes to mind?
In my attribution.
Attribution?
Attribution. I just hate that word with passion.
Use it in a sentence. What does it sound like when it's used?
So what do you attribute this increase in pipeline to exactly? What is the specific campaign that you have run that led to that outcome?
So what would be a word that we could use instead of attribution? Just a different way of saying it.
It's always influence. And I'll tell you a small story around this. And I said about I try to explain that to people. Yeah. It's the way I met my wife.
Okay.
So I met my wife. She says it's at a birthday party. I say it's a bar, location versus event. But so it was a birthday party at a bar that was 1.5 miles away from my apartment at the time. The birthday girl invited me with a friend of mine called me because he wanted me to be his wingman at that party.
Okay.
Right. And
good guy.
Good guy. And the same friend actually introduced me to my future wife that night, but I didn't want to be there. I was tired. Yeah. And so I go to that party. I'm talking to another friend, and what is the perfect woman for you? I just broken up with a girlfriend a few months before, and I didn't want to be with anyone else. And my future wife to be just walked. Literally, when he's asking me this, I'm just right there.
You pointed.
That's her right there.
Yeah.
That's
really?
I'm not making it up.
That's crazy.
An hour later, I was introduced to her by the friend who convinced me to go to that party. And I remember going home being, Jesus, if I had a checklist of all the things I would want in someone, she checks all of these. And I'm weird. I didn't want to call her. I didn't like the idea of getting a phone number. It's a long story, but going back to attribution is, how would you attribute me being with my wife today? Is it the location we met at? Is it the person who organized the party? Is it the friend who convinced me to go there, who happened to also introduce me to her? The person who drove my future wife there. It's a whole journey. It's different elements that made it happen. So I cannot attribute it to one thing.
Right.
So that's why I don't like attribution.
That is the best, most deepest explanation for why you don't use that word, or what shouldn't use that word. So, but can I still use it since I didn't have that same exact
you can if you want, but put a caveat to it. I think influence is better than attribution.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, Johan, thank you so much for being here. This is really a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
El Final.